Alright guys, so welcome and hello to part 4, at least I think we're on part 4, of the Let's Play for A Portrait of a Texas Family. In the last part, we finished up with the flashback, of them at the gas station, and the girl Sophia was the daughter, transgender daughter. Sophia was buying girl clothing at the gas station, and the mother was buying her, I think it was chalupas or whatever, at the gas station as well. And then it cut to present day, not a flashback, and Martin and Sophia came home finally from school because Martin was picking up Sophia from school. And now that's where we're moving on to. They're going to be having dinner. Okay. Return. Did it literally end? Was that literally it? I'm absolutely confused. Was that the entire game? Load. Was that actually the entire game? Listen, if I knew it was going to end that quick, if I click start, is it still going to go to the part? No, I guess that was it. Okay, so I guess I'm going to use the rest of this video as... No, I don't want to continue. I want to go back. As a way of reviewing this, I'll just make my character again. I should have made the hair color be that, by the way. Let's just make my character again even more accurate this time than ever before. Perfect. There we go. So with my little character there that I was using for the game, let me just talk about it and my overall thoughts for the game. I don't really see a plot to this other than just saying we have a transgender daughter who lives in Texas and having flashbacks. If that truly was the entire game, there wasn't a lot to go over with this game, and I feel like more could have been done with it. There could have been an actual plot. How would I improve this game in terms of plot and storytelling? Because that's my biggest issue I have with it, seeing as it ended so abruptly. I would maybe have it be that something happens with the transgender daughter at school. Also, I do feel bad about not reading the credits. Again, I'm going to link to this down below, and a few other things that give more information on it down below. Please do your own research. People in the comments can help with that. Start a discussion, a positive-based discussion about this topic of transgenderness. But how would I improve this game? So I would improve this game by giving it an actual plot. I feel like a really good way to do that would have it be showing a lot of... I know this would have made it take more effort and would have been probably longer to get out, and they probably wanted to do it while this stuff was still fresh. That is one of the harder topics to deal. The setbacks of dealing with modern issues is you have to kind of get out your media quickly to deal with the modern issues. But a way that we could have done this better is they could have had it take place with Sophia, and it could have showed her going to school and dealing with the struggles of being transgender, because it kind of just, for the most part, the entire time with this, it just kind of had the parents worrying about Sophia being transgender and worrying that things weren't going to go right, but it never really shows us any transphobia within this, and I guess that they didn't want it to be triggering, but if they want to talk about the realisticness of this bill and of the harm that the bill is doing, they should have showed us a bit of transphobia and showed us the actual damage that is being done, rather than just saying bill equals bad, because yes, the bill is bad, but they're not really showing it to us. They're just kind of having the parents fear that bad things are going to happen, and then every time they fear a bad thing is going to happen in a flashback, everything turns out alright. So I'm not really seeing any of that transphobia within this, which is kind of, in a way, sugarcoating it, in my opinion, because I'm heavily of the opinion that if you want to tackle these type of topics, you really have to show us the entire picture and not just sugarcoat it or just like say it's bad without showing it. You really do have to show it if you want to talk about these type of issues in any sort of way. So I feel like in that regard they could have done more. They really should have had it from at least a little bit, Sophia's perspective. Also, Sophia was supposed to be bordering on 13 in this, so I feel like she still could have had a perspective where she's like, I get bullied or something bad happens. The worst thing that they showed happening is that she couldn't play on a sports team, but there are actually worse things that end up happening with transphobia and this type of thing. I get that the parents are supportive, but still, from someone else, from a stranger, from anywhere, they could have had something bad happen. And even if they didn't want to do that, at the very least, they could have actually, like, delved more into the politics rather than just mentioning the bill once or twice. Within this, I feel like they could maybe have them watch the news, maybe have them discuss the whole entire, like, situation to Sophia at the dinner table before it ended, and at least say that it's, like, getting bad and explain to her the implications of this politically. That would have maybe even helped the audience or some people who didn't know as much. I feel like obviously you would assume, and I would assume this too, rightfully so, that people who play this game are transgender and do know the implications of this, but still, they could have used it as a way of educating certain people who might just stumble across this on the website. So that's another thing that I had that I didn't really like about this. I felt like the ending was just too abrupt. They needed to do something. Either have it be longer and have it also go to Sophia's perspective at school, have a flashback with Sophia at school, anything, or even just have them talk about politics at the table and then it ends there with them thinking things will get better. Also, another thing that I have that I didn't really like about this, the choices in this, I don't know if there are multiple different endings, but the choices in this seem to do relatively nothing. I feel like I could have picked any choice and any ending would have happened because there was no really ending to this. I just got to pick, do I feel joy or safe? Those were literally just my two options. I literally got to pick my own ending and then it just, boom, ended. So that was really abrupt for me as well, and I really felt like I was just picking my own ending, and I really didn't feel like for a click and point game that it had choices that mattered. I didn't feel like there were multiple different options. A much better game that kind of had a similar style to this one that I've played recently. This is like a fandom made game for a certain fandom, but it was Helga's Cheese Festival from Hey Arnold. If you'd like me to do a let's play of that, I can do that. But that actually had it where no matter what choice you picked, different things would actually happen. And the choices that you picked in Helga's Cheese Festival actually directly impacted the story. Here, it kind of just felt like I could have picked any choice and it would have stayed the same, and really just wanted to tell like certain events. I can't even say that it wanted to tell like just events. It just felt like it wanted to have a story with a transgender character, but it didn't really want to go fully into that. And I get having a transgender character and just normalizing it, but they didn't do that either. They didn't just be like, our daughter's transgender and then told a story. Because to normalize being transgender to the point where it doesn't impact the story, they would have had to have Sophia just be transgender and have a completely different plot outside of that. But clearly the plot of this story was about Sophia being transgender, and when you make that the plot of the story, you really have to like talk about it and discuss it fully. But if you just want to have her be a transgender character within a different plot, then you don't have to discuss her being transgender in full, and she can just exist and be transgender. But when the topic of the plot is her being transgender, you really have to go into all the aspects of that. And this really didn't. It just kind of gave like 3 random flashbacks and then just had everyone be accepting the end. And it touched upon the bill very briefly in a single flashback and then not really anywhere else. And I wish we got a lot more with that. And especially since we're in Texas, so many like unsupported people would be in Texas. Like literally at one point it mentioned somebody wearing a Confederacy hat, and yet they don't do any transphobia in this, and that was a missed opportunity. And I'm personally not one for sugarcoating things. Like, if you are going to specifically go to your way, not always, like I said, like, you can just have a black character, a trans character, an LGBT character, they can just exist if the plot is not about that. But if you're going out of your way to make that plot be about that, you need to tackle all aspects of that, the good, the bad, the dirty. You cannot just sugarcoat it, and you cannot just say, well, this character is this, sunshine and rainbows, and, like, pretending that, because it sets the idea that, like, everyone's just supportive. And I get that the parents, again, they worried that people might not be supportive, and it does say not everyone's going to support this, but it still does not show that, and that is my biggest issue I have with this story. Other than that, there really wasn't a plot to it. It was kind of just stating like random events of things that happened that reminded her of how her daughter is trans. And it's like, we know your daughter is trans. What is the actual plot of this? There wasn't really one to this at all. Because again, the plot was supposed to be about the bill that passed, but because it did not actually talk about the legitimate harms of that bill, and it did not show the harms of that bill taking action within the plot, I don't feel like that was a big enough conflict. It just kind of mentioned that it was a bad thing. We need to actually see the implications of that and the negatives to come from that bill. It would have drawn it home more and drawn home the point, and we need to see those negatives in action. Which is why I believe Sophia should have had a storyline at school, and we should have seen the negatives or impacts of that bill, because I feel like that mostly affects school-age children. Or anything. Like, the CPS could have came, for all I care. Something. We need to see some negative, some conflict, besides just something we don't like. Because saying I don't like something is not a conflict. That's telling me about a character, but that's not giving me a plot conflict. There is no plot conflict here. It's just reminiscing on their transgender daughter and moments with her, and then saying the bill was bad without actually showing the implications of that. So much more could have been done with this game. Overall, though, in terms of gameplay, I really enjoyed it, and it was definitely the type of game and storyline that I like. I just wish the plot had more in it, and I feel like a better version of this type of gameplay would have been Helga's Cheese Festival, and I'm using that as an example not only because it's a similar like gameplay style, but because it was also a fan-made game and it was made by 1 or 2 people as well, and it was an indie game as well, much like this, and I still think it did 10 times better. Even though it didn't talk about LGBTQ stuff, it still did much, much better than this game, and the plot of that felt overall more satisfying by the end of it, and I think it was longer too. So that's a much better version of a click and point story-based driven game that I really enjoyed. If you guys would like me to play that on the channel, comment down below. But with that out of the way, that is my overall thoughts of this game. It ended way too abruptly. I didn't even expect it to be ending. That's why we were having an entire part 4 to this of just my thoughts of it. So with that out of the way, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All the links for all this info about, not about the political stuff, because I want you to do your own research. I don't want to be like giving the wrong links or something. But all the links about this game and everything that needs to be there, and any of the artists for it that I can link, I'll link down below. But with that out of the way, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye, guys!